We have representation from Asia Foundation, Ms. Nandita Barua, who is country representative for Asia Foundation, and Professor Mahendra Lama, who is founder, Vice Chancellor of Sikkim University, and is currently professor at Jawaharlal Nehru University. So we welcome both of you, and also I'm very happy to see you all for participating in this event. Now may I request Honorable Vice Chancellor to speak to us.
I must appreciate this effort of signing an MoU with Asia Foundation. We all know that our UNISAR, which was there, was doing a considerable work in the area of South Asian studies. Asia Foundation was one organization when I was inviting many people for our UNISARC and other programs. Professor Lama came to me, and during one of our programs he discussed that to strengthen our academic relationship further, why don't we go in for signing an MoU? And I immediately agreed to that, and in subsequent meeting I think we had Professor Mahendra Lama and another associate, I'm forgetting the name, and Professor Nandita Barua also joined us. And that's the time we probably, if I remember correctly, we decided that let's have an MoU, and it will strengthen the research and academic activities of our two institutes. Reason for accepting this immediately was that this Southeast Asian region is a very important one. Very important one, everybody will agree, but then it is assuming greater importance every day. It is assuming importance by the day, I am saying, because firstly all these Asian regions, they need to unite and put up a strong presence all over the world. Europe is not becoming important now, we all know, and if you have read the reports about 7 days back that if Russia stops the gas line, Europe will not be able to breathe. Now this is a big question in international relations, that against the UN sanctions, Europe is continuing to have gasoline from them, and they are telling Indians that you don't do this, don't have any dealings with Russians. Now it is the strength of a country which allows us to stand on our own footing, and the new axiom which has come in the international relations, wherein our external affairs minister has very openly, categorically declared on all forums, UNO or all other bilateral, trilateral, wherever he is gone, that look, the latest in the international politics or international foreign policy is that you have to watch for the interests of your own country. There is nothing like white bloc, black bloc, left or right or whatever, or non-aligned movement, mission, nothing of that kind. We have to see what is in our interest. And under that line, I am very delighted to see that we have taken a stand which the whole world is appreciating. Whatever, we are not the ones who will support anybody who is attacking somebody or support anyone who is trying to occupy somebody's area. Our stand has always been one related to peaceful movement, related to our developmental goals, and related to wherever we can help for rendering peace. That's what Indians have been doing, rightly so, and that would be possible if our area is strengthened, and that is where Asia Foundation comes in. The study, the research in these areas, what we can do, what way we can strengthen, what are the trade cooperation we can do, what is the maritime cooperation one can do. And on maritime side also, if you look at it, there was a time we were dependent upon Suez Canal, there was a time we were dependent on other routes. Now, of late, Indian Ocean has become one of the busiest, not one of the busiest, the busiest trade route, and very important trade route. This is where India has to play a very categorical role in developing international peace. One of the major things you would have seen is that Ukraine, which has undergoing this unfortunate war, used to be a big producer of wheat and other food products. And they have not been able to supply it to many countries because of this. and they are becoming absolutely cash-strapped. I was watching late night edition of this program called Beyond. That is where they were talking about Somalia not getting any food, and there are about 1 million people who are on the stage of starvation. Now, in such a scenario, the world has to rise up. That if they are not getting from this, somebody else has to help. And World Health Organization or International Food Organization, they have to come up and maybe tap some group which can render. After all, they are also human beings. Now, India is doing its best. We are supplying food grains to wherever they need. But Somalia being a little far off, and our limitations are there. So therefore, world as a unit has to rise up to look at the humanity as such as one unit. So this is that where a cooperation of this kind with Asia Foundation and Pondicherry University, with their own research activities, can come out with some papers which can be sent to the concerned ministries, and their hand will be strengthened through these academic activities, that these are the urgent issues which are needed to be looked into. And I was talking about the maritime issues, this trade union, the Indian Ocean trade route is very important now, and on the strength of that, our country is gaining importance. And people are looking up to India that here is a country which stands up for development, which stands up for peace, which stands up for organization for creating world peace, for developmental issues. And SAARC, Asian Countries Association, lot is being done, but then this area is also problem-ridden. Pakistan is an example. Afghanistan is facing tremendous issues. Bangladesh is facing a lot of problems. So all our countries are not having a very peaceful time. Rohingyas problems is there. So therefore, if somebody says that, well, there is no need of this kind of an MoU, I think one will be having a very narrow thinking if I go by that. Broader vision will be that this is going to be a very important association. So keeping all these points in mind, when we discussed, we thought this will be the best in the interest of both our organizations, and immediately both agreed. Yes, unfortunately, for a variety of reasons, this should have been signed earlier, but it kept on getting delayed for some reason or the other. Nevertheless, there is a saying, "Der aaye durust aaye," isn't it?
True that.
A time has come. Whatever time you do it, it is for the betterment of academic world, and that is where we are now reaching a stage, or we'll say a moment has come, which should be for the benefit of all of us. So we'll sign this MoU, and I will urge all of you, all the deans who are here, that let this not be an MoU which is signed for the sake of signing and for the sake of telling some ministry that, look, we have added one more feather to our cap. I would like this to be a very vibrant MoU, and it is being signed at a time when I will say personally, and I think everybody will bear me out on that, at a time when political science and international relations are evolving and are changing every day. If somebody said, I have read the theory of, I don't know, Palmer and Perkins or Hans Morgenthau, which is a standard book, I am going to follow those classic principles, no longer are they valid. Absolutely. We have to look at it every day. Every day scene changes. A shipload of wheat goes from one country to another, things become better, the whole scene changes. So it's a very evolving subject, and I'm not seeing anybody, maybe Humayun is one who's here, Matthews is there, and then our Purushothaman is here, who just finished his headset. So these are the people who have to take it further and go in for better research projects, active research projects, and think on what best can be done. Let me tell you, we can always give some idea, but when you work as a collective unit, your ideas get multiplied. And maybe when you work on this, something positive, useful would emerge out, which will take our world very far off. You never know where the spark kindles and then what it leads to. Sometimes it leads to destruction, but sometimes it leads to very positive results, and hoping that we will be able to contribute richly. I welcome our friend Professor Lama and Professor Nanta Barua wholeheartedly here, and we'll sign. Before we sign, I think I'll request Professor Nanta Barua to say a few words.
First, I'm really honored to be here today, and like you said, I think there is always a time and a date that is auspicious, and today it is. So be it. It doesn't matter that it took us 6 months, but in the 6 months, I want to emphasize that we've had a growing relationship with the Pondicherry University, with the Center for South Asian Study, in actually deploying the first of its kind program on hydrodiplomacy. I want to thank Professor Lama, who actually planted this idea on our head to start looking at, and for the support we got in working to develop the curriculum for this, along with 3 universities, Pondicherry, Sikkim University and IIT Guwahati. As somebody who's been on the other side and looking at the work, I think Pondicherry took the lead much faster than the other 2. So I'm again very honored and would like to congratulate the Pondicherry University for the work you've done. We faced some delays with the other 2. Sikkim University is really catching up now, and we'll wait and see how IIT Guwahati does. But why? Let me just that being the background, I really want to thank the Honorable Vice Chancellor for really agreeing to even start this course. It's not something that was tried, and I think it needs a kind of vision for a university and the leadership to agree to put out a new course and say, let's give it a try. And truly it has reaped a lot of goodwill. I think the faculty with Professor Purushottam, Professor Raju, Professor Matthews and others had a big role to play in the success of the initial course that was deployed. Talking about the foundation and the MoU, I want to say that the foundation is, we have country offices in 18 Asian countries, and that's why we are called the Asia Foundation. We are based out of San Francisco, but technically every country office has its own country program. We are in every country in Asia, currently with the exception of Afghanistan, where we recently had to close office because of the situation. We haven't closed office even in Myanmar, even though there was a problem, and we continue to work. Our latest office is in Fiji, which is for the Pacific Island. What does the foundation do? We do a lot of developmental work in each country, but we also do a lot of intellectual discourses, and it's the part of that discourse that has got us thinking about having relationship with academic institute. At a global level, we have MOUs with the Australian National University, we have tie-ups with Berkeley, we have tie-up with the George Washington, the Eliot and the Fletcher School. We have programs for diplomats. Every year we send 2 Indian diplomats from MEA on a course on diplomacy and political issues to the US. We have a cohort of young Asian diplomats, which is a new program, and also Asian Development Fellows. Why do we invest in a lot of these? We feel that, and these relationships have been going on for long, but things have changed in the last 5-10 years. And what has changed is the belief within those of us who run the foundation that there is an urgent need to have a southern discourse to everything that's political, economic and social. For a long time, and I myself have worked in multiple development agencies, both multilateral and bilateral, and I think what I am realizing is a lot of our development paradigms were also very driven by a northern perspective of what the global south needs. Today, the global south is in a position to say what we need and what we want, and as Professor Gurmeet Singh ji was pointing out, even in the sphere of diplomacy, India is taking the stand and making a point about how partnerships, relationships needs to be transacted differently. It cannot be driven because some countries feel negatively about a certain event in a country. It doesn't mean that everybody has to follow suit, because everybody would have their own interests tied up. We are an interconnected world. We cannot necessarily just take a side based on some defined parameters of friendship or relationship. And I think countries like the US are soon realizing. I am a US based organization technically, but I think even being that, we are very categorical about where we stand in Asia. We work in Asian countries with Asian governments, so we are very, very clear that what we push forward would have to be in the interest of the Asian countries and their people and citizenry. It's hard for us in many countries, but I think we have been able to be very bipartisan. We've been able to be not necessarily take any sides, but take the right side, whatever is relevant and important for inclusion and equity. That's our lens. We really want to focus on inclusion and equity. This course on hydrodiplomacy also came from that understanding. How can we have a water governance issue that is not defined by which of the superpower is controlling water, but more defined by what is the collaboration in addressing water and water resources going to lead to? I know you all know this, when Atalji started the river linking project, there was a lot of resistance. A lot of think tanks, intellectuals, groupings came about. But we realize today the importance of something like that. It's again something like water, for example, cannot be controlled by any one entity or a state or an individual or a nation. It's a resource that's natural and has to be therefore accessed equitably, both by the higher and lower riparian, and that's not necessarily happening. We know, I have an office in Laos, and we know how bad the situation there is with the damming of multiple rivers which are originating in China but coming through Laos, and it's impacting the entire ecosystem, the ecodiversity, the population, the economy, down from Laos to the Mekong. And just on that, I think India's role, India being able to provide leadership in South Asia from an equitable lens is something which will be remarkable. I think India is very well poised to do that. So the Asia Foundation in India, while we work on water governance issues, while we work on the hydrodiplomacy work, we do a variety of other things, and we would be very interested, sir, through this MoU to explore intellectual partnerships, research partnerships between Pondicherry University and Asia Foundation, but also between Pondicherry University and other universities with whom we have partnerships. Renewable energy is a big area where we work in. Currently, the India office is actually working very closely with MEA on India's role in the Indo-Pacific. And in that in that space, we are looking at 3 sectors, which is renewable energy, climate smart agriculture, and disaster risk reduction. And I think it will be important to see how we can expand on those partnerships through MOUs like this. I am really happy to say that in Asia, this would be the first MOU that in country office is having with an academic institution. So it's a big thing for us as well. Most of our MOUs are globally held from San Francisco, and I think our global office is very pleased that we are moving in this direction. It enables us to then put forward Pondicherry University as a partner, as a like-minded partner when we have engagement with other global universities. And I think we would be very happy to work with with you on multiple research projects and think collectively, create this narrative on Southern voices on development, on Southern voices on foreign policy, Southern voices on governance. Gendered foreign policy is the one topic where we are now extensively invested in. We are bringing out a compendium which is called Is India on the Threshold of Creating a Feminist Foreign Policy, which is about inclusion and equity. And so those being just some starting point, it's exciting, and I really want to thank you. And I would like this to be a live MOU where we get a chance to be working with all of you at different points. And thank you so much, Vice Chancellor Gurmeet Singh ji, for having us, have this agreement with you. And thanks to Professor Lama for really taking the lead in defining and facilitating this course and this process. And we are looking at many more things to do together now, and I think he'll talk about it. And to the faculty of the Center for South Asian Study and UMISAR, Professor Purushottamam, Professor Raju, and your team. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Gurmeet Singh, Madam Nandita Barua, the Registrar of the University, Professor Amaresh Samantaraya, Professor Raju, Professor Purushottamam, all the deans and senior faculty members. Well, it's a very great occasion for all of us to come together to sign a MOU between Pondicherry University and Asia Foundation. Both the institutions are very eminent institutions. Pondicherry University is one of the leading universities today in India, despite it being one of the younger generation universities. Then Asia Foundation is a very globally recognized institution. So I think this gives us a very good opportunity for two major institutions coming together to work on one of the most critical issues of human security national security today and environmental security, that is water. So when we conceived this idea about how do we go about it, because we could see that the entire instruments related to diplomacy as far as water resources are concerned has undergone drastic changes over the years. It's not the government alone which can actually negotiate and come to a conclusion, right? As far as water is, it involves communities, it involves national security, it involves number of livelihoods patterns, it involves climate change, so many issues. And we thought that our governments, particularly in India, would require substantive inputs as far as how we should negotiate with our neighboring countries as far as water is concerned. For example, we see in China today, they have a massive, water diversion project. Their project goes from south to north. So it is all against the natural law of water flows, right? Actually, water flows there from the south to the north. It flows upwards. 1,300 kilometers they are diverted Yangtze River. And so they are diverted Yangtze River. And what are the implications? Because two of our major rivers would come from the water towers of China, right? Including Sichuan, Tibet, Xinjiang, that particular mountain regions. That is the Indus and Sindhu and Brahmaputra. So what would happen if they start fiddling with these two significant river flows? What would happen? And we being a middle riparian, right? Bangladesh on the other hand, Pakistan on the other side, it would be of tremendous interest for India to play a role which really serves the national interest also and brings in the regional partners also together. So when we started thinking about it and when we floated this idea, we discussed with Professor, Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Gurmeet Singh. He has, unlike many other vice chancellors, Professor Gurmeet Singh is very greedy about ideas, and innovations. He catches so fast, maybe because of his science background, the ideas, innovative perspectives about. So when we discussed it, I could see a glitter in his eyes. Hey, we must move fast. And Madam Nandita Baba was just sitting nearby. So we all decided. And it really moved fast despite the pandemic. In the last 2 years, I would say Pondicherry University made significant progress. Professor Purusothaman was there, Professor Matthew, Professor Raju, right? So we will have to really express our gratitude to the entire team. And so what next is the question. And what would MoU lead to finally is another question. The idea is to bring the knowledge centers of the entire country, north, south, west and east, to a common pool and really trigger fresh ideas about how we manage water resources and innovative ideas about how do we negotiate with our countries or within the country, right, between the states, right? And third idea is to how to really exchange this stock of knowledge with the neighboring countries also, including with Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, Pakistan, and possibly with China also, right? Because we have the right kind of institutions. So we thought that let Pondicherry University take the lead in the south, and Sikkim University and IIT Guwahati would take the lead in the east. So we are looking forward to starting these kind of programs in other parts also, in the north and the west also. And the next question is what do we expect from this MoU, right? Because this MoU is signed primarily to facilitate a process, right, that would generate a lot of interest as far as water resource management is concerned, generate a huge pool of intellectual resources, train our young boys and girls in the universities, in the colleges to think, rethink, renegotiate about water resources, both in the context of our national interest and also, of course, in the context of the neighboring countries. And this is a program which is interdisciplinary. So within a university, it will bring sociology, chemistry, physics, all these departments, right, into one. So Professor Raju would be, of course, in the aim of affairs in the next few years. So he has to bring all these pool of intellectual resources from other disciplines to a common platform, right, and make it a really interdisciplinary program. Our idea is to really transform the entire graduate programs into what you call it a PhD program, and also train both within the university and outside the university members of the civil societies, members of the civil services, NGOs, all kinds of things on issues of how do we really deal with water resources and what are the changes, what are the vulnerabilities, all these issues. So university would play not only a role of not only a teaching role, but also would play some kind of a role that builds skills, capabilities among the civil societies and the civil service and other officials and other NGOs also, and of course media too. So that's we are looking forward to. And the third idea is to really, take this, transfer this or transmit this knowledge or skills and capabilities to the neighboring countries in terms of institutional developments, in terms of capacity development, and of course in terms of their understanding of what we think about water resources. Because we think, it's a country like Nepal, Bhutan, always have some kind of a misunderstanding or some kind of misperception about what India would do about water. You see Bangladesh, India, we have not been able to really go to the exact, institutionalized process as yet. Therefore, I would say Pondicherry University will play a very pivotal role in the course of next 3 to 10 years. And in playing that role, I think two individuals will play equally critical role. One, of course, is the Honorable Vice Chancellor of the university, who would really push through and give a broad directions today. And of course, the second one is, of course, the role to be played by the Director of Asia Foundation, because both of them are institutions. And presently, Madam Nandita Barua, a very widely respected, widely respected international in the arena of international governance of international institutions, right? Widely traveled, worked in the field with communities, worked with the top policymakers in the country. So she brings in that kind of very, rich experience and experimentations in really pushing through these projects. My role is very simple. My role is limited to broadly giving some kind of guidance, right? My only advantage is I've been in and out of the government, so I know little bit about how government functions, what really government wants to do, and what kind of capacities we require in order to enable our government to be what Professor Honorable Vice Chancellor said, to be robust and resilient in the international negotiation process. And we have shown that, started showing that particular strength in the international arena despite so much of crisis. So I would like to again very warmly thank Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Gurmeet Singh for his guidance and farsightedness, Professor Madam Nandita Barwa, right, for leading the entire pack with so much of expertise and so much of what you call it, experimentations, with so much of experience in the institutional government process, and of course the entire team in Pondicherry University, formerly led by Professor Purusothaman, now led by Professor Raju. I would like to thank, and I'm sure all the respective deans and the university officials would be of tremendous support to this huge initiative that is both in the national and the regional interest. Thank you very much.
No doubt, Asia was already having significant sort of contribution in terms of population of the world as a whole for a long time, and last 2 decades or so, we are also emerging as a major player in terms of economic power as well as politics. So already Honorable Vice Chancellor Madam Barua and Professor Lama has elaborated on how Asia is becoming important, and how there is a need to sort of study relevant issues including hydro diplomacy, and this is timely that we are basically signing this MoU with Asia Foundation. I don't have anything to add. I'm sure to tell that we are very delighted under the leadership of Vice Chancellor to sign this MoU, and I wish the academic collaboration of Pondicherry University and Asia Foundation leads to effective policy making, strengthening Asia in the entire world arena. Thank you. I wish all the success.